Welcome to Listening to Lancaster. My name is Jonathan Russell with Hourglass, and it is my pleasure today to be here with Vanessa Philbert from the Community Action Partnership. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone.
I'd like to start quick by thanking our sponsors, Michael's Motor Cars, for their support of these Listening to Lancaster videos. We really appreciate their support of Hourglass and this series as well. So thanks to them. So Vanessa, I'd like to just jump right in here and say, can you tell me a little bit about Community Action Partnership, or CAP, we'll probably be saying it throughout this interview, and the work you do in the Lancaster community?
Absolutely. Again, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much, Jonathan, for the opportunity. I'm going to start a little macro and then I'll kind of go micro. So just to provide some education, the Community Action Network is a national network that was founded through the leadership of President Lyndon Johnson and his focus on the war on poverty. Through that work, President Johnson really came up with many initiatives, things like Head Start, AmeriCorps, and Peace Corps, but also kind of birthed the Community Action Network. And the idea with Community Action Networks was that these would be local organizations that would kind of have a grassroots element to how they showed up in the work, that they would do a community needs assessment, and that every community action would create strategies and services based on the needs of that specific community. So it was this idea that it wasn't going to be a cookie cutter process from the federal government to the local community, that it was really going to be kind of this homegrown local strategy. So even today, we do a community needs assessment every 3 years. And with that needs assessment is how we really develop our work plan that helps us to establish kind of our focus. In the network, there are about 1,000 community actions across the United States. There are 52 here in the Commonwealth. And we are the Lancaster County Community Action. Our community action has 4 areas of impact, and that work is really kind of provided every day with over 300 staff that we have here as part of our team at CAP. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the 4 impact areas and some of the programs that live in those spaces. I think often people recognize program names and maybe don't recognize that that's part of the CAP portfolio or family. So our first team is our education and child development team, really focused on making sure that our kiddos have a really equitable opportunity to education and child development. So we do that through providing Head Start, early Head Start pre-K counts. We have mixed payer childcare centers. We have 4 right now, 2 in Lancaster City, 1 in Columbia, and 1 in Pequay Valley area school district. We also help lead a community-wide conversation around early childhood services and that partnership between the early childhood world and our school districts. So that initiative is called P2 3. It's really prenatal to 3rd grade, really focused on getting kids ready. And then we also spend a lot of time with families in their homes, which is a really, unique and special time to come along families to really help them develop their skills as parents. And really the contingency of the work that we do in homes is based on a program called Parents as Teachers. It's a national model that believes that our parent is your first teacher. So our job is to really help coach, support, and walk alongside parents as they're helping their kiddos to develop. So that's our education team. Our health and nutrition team focuses on things like WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. It's a food subsidy program. We also have some senior centers that provide support to low-income seniors. We do lots of nutrition education in schools and communities across the county. And then one space that most people don't really recognize is that CAP is the lead food distribution partner with the County of Lancaster. So we support about 40 pantries across the community. This year, we provided about 2 million pounds of food throughout those pantry networks. So it's something that we kind of are in the background doing, but really appreciate the work of our pantry partners. And it's been really interesting during this time to see the need around food for families in our community. So that's our second impact team. Our third impact team is really focused on economic mobility. That team is focused on the household stability, the economic stability of a family. So we do things like on the emergency continuum, which is, emergency utility assistance, rental assistance. And then we move down that continuum to support working families or families who are in school who need childcare subsidies. So those are those really kind of traditional services in terms of providing a subsidy so that families can continue to work and mobilize themselves. And then the last team or program as part of that team that's been unique to us is our navigation team. And it is a combination between a case manager, traditionally what we think about as case management, but really a life coach. And for those of us who are in the professional world, especially in leadership roles, we're kind of accustomed to this idea of having coaches. So we really wanted to make sure that our families had the same access to someone who could help challenge, walk alongside, give advice, create opportunities to think through barriers so that we could help them to really think thoughtfully about what it means to transition out of generational poverty. So that's our navigation team. And then our fourth team is really focused on safety and empowerment. So most folks maybe don't know that CAP is the domestic violence organization for our community. So we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week safe house where individuals fleeing domestic violence can come and find refuge. We have a legal clinic of attorneys, paralegals, and advocates who support individuals with legal proceedings. Specifically related to, their domestic violence situation. We have a little bit of some transitional housing opportunities where folks can stay with us until they continue to stabilize. And we do lots of education, counseling support through that program. We also lead Lancaster County's Reentry Coalition, so supporting individuals who are coming out of the prison system. And finally, in 2018, we merged with Crispus Attucks Community Center, and now Crispus Attucks is part of our kind of portfolio of services that we provide here in the county. So in a nutshell, those are the 4 impact areas, but at our core, what we believe is that we are called to help transform generational poverty into economic prosperity so that all can thrive here in Lancaster County. So that's kind of the work of CAP. It's been exciting. It's been an interesting year and a half for me as CEO. But, we have an awesome team who really cares deeply about our community and cares about, supporting families in ways that are meaningful.
Wow, that's a lot of work you all do in the community. How many folks do you serve?
So broadly about 40,000, and that's probably because of all of our food pantry services. When I think about little highlight points, I'll say in our education team, we serve about 1,500 families. In classrooms, about 1,000. We have about 40 classrooms throughout the county. So some of our Head Start classrooms are in our centers, some are in partner organizations, churches, local nonprofits, wherever we find a partner that wants to share that space with us. Our WIC program serves about 10,000 families a year. Our navigation program can serve anywhere between 200 to 500 families, depending on the crisis element. And then our long-term families are with us for a long time, intentionally. We know that this kind of change takes time. So those caseloads are a little smaller, take a little longer time, but that's where we can see that transformation from generation to generation. And then in our domestic violence program, we can serve about 200 families. Our safe house holds anywhere between 35 to 40, adults and children at any given time. Wow. So that shifts. It's because it's kind of a rolling experience. There's never really a bed available. Occupancy is pretty full in our shelter.
So with just over about 550,000 folks in Lancaster County, you serve a sizable chunk of those folks.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned a little bit that you've been there about a year and a half. So you were, I think you said before we started talking, you said you were there in December of 2019, which means that you had about 3 months before everything went crazy.
Yeah.
So explain to me a little bit about what that was like for you and for the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting time whenever you ascend kind of to the CEO role, you're preparing for a shift. And I don't know for other folks who have been in a CEO role, this is my first CEO role. So you're not quite sure what the shift looks like, but it's there. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of coming back from the holidays, which is usually kind of that feels like a little bit of a lull when folks are taking some time for the holidays. And, I was really focused on okay, strategic plan. We're going to get clear for our vision for the future. And then COVID hit, and it was like, wow, that was not expected. So we spent lots of time planning and trying to organize our work in a way that we felt was, one, safe for our staff, but also accessible to our customers, and in partnership with our funders, making sure that we were meeting the requirements of our funders. So that's a lot of moving parts, because we have, CAP is about a $40 million organization, with lots of different funding sources. Now, some folks think that we're a government agency, and we're not. We are a local nonprofit 501(c)(3). We have grants, state, local, and federal. We, again, acquire donations from, investors, partners, donors in the community to help us support our work. So we had to really get clear about what was essential and needed to be on site, open and available to customers, and what could go to remote. And, making sure that we met the expectations of our funder and our customer in doing that. I have to say that really proud of our team. We did not lay any staff off. We were able to keep all of our programs intact, and keep service available to our customers, which was, most important to all of us, is that we wanted to provide both safety and access. And I know that it hasn't been the same experience for a lot of nonprofits and a lot of businesses. So really feel grateful that we were able to kind of weather that storm. We're kind of coming out of that a little bit, and working through a transition plan to back to in-person full time. So that'll happen probably closer to the fall. We just, want to make sure that folks have access to education around vaccines and, all the things that they need to feel, comfortable and safe at work.
I think it was CAP. I might be putting my foot in my mouth here, but I think it was CAP that had a piece of one of your frontline caseworkers in going through her day during COVID, and just kind of saying, this is what a day in the life of somebody who's working on the front lines to continue some of these essential services. And it is just a traditional, just an amazing testament to the work that you all do and continued to do during COVID. I just found that piece very interesting.
Oh, well, that's great. And I think, it's been really great to see our staff, get creative. We've had to do some things with our space in terms of, where you see lots of places, plexiglass and hand sanitizer, all the things that kind of stuff, but also thinking about ways to kind of effectively and efficiently serve customers without losing this person-centered connection. And, we're really intentional about calling, the folks that we serve our customers, because we are to service to the community. So we had to get really clear about that. And we had to get creative with, remote work. I will say that our education team had done some phenomenal thinking around drive-through diaper drives and wipes. We also recognized that, kiddos that were in our care that weren't with us because of COVID still needed access to food. So we would do food drives for those families. We looked at all the ways in which we could meet the needs and the gaps for our community. We did lots of learning how to do technology. Our nutrition education team has a series on YouTube of teaching families how to explore nutrition and do it in fun ways with kiddos. So we all learned a little bit, some new skills through COVID, and got more comfortable with technology and did a lot of remote learning and connecting with families. And, we just made the best of what the situation was.
Excellent. Yeah, Hourglass is no different. Having to get
Right.
to technology, adapting different things. It's been a unique challenge, but one that I think a lot of organizations have really risen up to do. So that's fantastic. So you talked a little bit about household stability as one of your teams. We recently in May had a First Friday Forum with Tenfold, LHOP and Tabor.
Oh, yeah.
And just really reinforced how important housing is for folks, and that housing first model of getting somebody in a home and building that support structure around them. Can you talk a little bit about how you've navigated this kind of crazy housing market, how you're working with folks in that realm?
Yeah, Tenfold and CAP, they partner often together, which is great. Mike and I are good friends, so we get to continue to work together. And I'll say our household stability team obviously focuses on things like rental assistance, and we do a lot of work in our community in partnership with Tenfold, the Housing Redevelopment Authority. We provide a lot of service to individuals and families who live in hotels and are needing help to transition out of a hotel and find that permanent housing. So our navigation team has kind of been the go-to kind of case management place just to help navigate the housing system with families, which is not easy. The market is very tight. There is not a lot of access. And when you are thinking about an individual or family who has little resources, low credit score, maybe not a great rental history, it becomes even more difficult. And if you add on someone who's coming out of reentry, even more challenging. So the role of that navigator is someone who helps you, like a GPS, navigate the system, gives you a heads up when there's maybe a roadblock or something happening on that street that's going to delay you. So they help you reroute. So our navigation team has kind of been essential to providing those kinds of services. I think what's been unique for us in our household stability team, it's a partnership between that team and our education team. We launched an initiative called Together. And what we have recognized is that when we think about, the numbers, and if we want to put a face to poverty in our community, it is a single mom. 85% of our poverty statistics, or our poverty rate, is comprised of single mothers. So even during this really difficult time, we thought it was imperative to continue to pilot strategies and think about what we could scale to move the needle, kind of one family at a time. So in January, we launched that cohort. It's called Together. It's 10 single mothers who are committed to work with CAP for 2 years as they pursue an educational opportunity that will lead them to a living wage job. And we would provide wraparound support with that navigator piece connected to that cohort. But we would also help to map out budgets and other concerns. And if needed, we could help provide subsidy through a life stipend experience. So while organizations like Tenfold are really focused on the housing first model, and we provide a lot of wraparound support services to the housing needs in our community, the other way that we look at household stability or economic stability is thinking about pilots like Together. How do we kind of really go deep with a family with a lot of intentionality until they make it across that kind of cliff line of that they can provide support for themselves without needing the subsidies that CAP provides. So we're excited. We've done a few different iterations of Together. We've done some focused on workforce, some focused on education, and this is really kind of a combination of both.
Wow, that is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the most pressing issue facing the most vulnerable in Lancaster County?
I think it's two that are kind of connected. It's workforce and housing connected, right? So access to affordable housing and high quality, safe housing for families is essential. But the workforce piece is really kind of foundational. How do we engage people in the workforce that is livable wage jobs that people can support themselves and their children, that they can also hope and dream a little bit about what their future, what they want it to be. It was something that we did. We did some focus groups with moms and, like, talk to us about the things that you want to do and how we can, and you walk into those conversations with some preconceived ideas. And it's a reminder for us that, the hope and the dream of an individual should be theirs, right? Yeah. Our job is to create an equitable pathway to that experience. So I would say housing and workforce, I would say the overarching issue is going to be equity.
And so how can those listening to this help address some of those issues? How can they help the work of CAP?
Yeah, I'd say three quick things. It's, your time, your treasure, and your talent. So when I think about that, volunteerism is really important. It helps us to kind of expand how we can serve the community. Your treasure, your investment, thinking about ways that you can donate, you can partner in the work that we're doing. And then your talent, whether it's on a committee, a board, a task force, a think group, how can we bring that? One of the unique things that we've done with a lot of our families through our navigation team is provide kind of mentors, what we call allies, as people are trying to transition through this experience of being a low-income family and living in a low-income situation as they navigate education and workforce, moving towards that middle class. How do we engage with folks and broaden their social capital, right? So I always tell folks, think about what you can offer in time, think about how you can invest your treasure and how you're willing to share your talent.
That's fantastic. And so folks can find out more about CAP by visiting their website, and finding out some of those resources on there. So Vanessa, thanks so much for being with us today. Just really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great, great day.
Thanks, you too.